and gentlemen, this is Freedom Report. The broadcast will start shortly after this brief song.
I got arrested just a few days ago in a sting operation for my 13th time. My brother's the 16th time. I mean, we are beating some Guinness Book of Records. This is unbelievable. I would never think that in Canada you would have to do this. It's unbelievable.
Stefanos, you're frozen. Oh man, they gotta change your modem.
1 hour later.
Now forgive my paper here, but you know what? When it's that song, you write on anything you get. God bless you. Amen. Thank you.
Very large crowd here. So, very large line of protesters, very large line of police and riot police who are actually moving further. But I was, just before I even turned this phone on, they weren't coming over this snow hill up here, but here, I'll show you everybody. Yeah, they're coming over this snowbank and they're going to want to push everybody out of here.
Ed, you're muted.
Well, I'm just going to start by saying I never expected to be the guy in front of the cameras, in front of the media. I just wanted to grill. I just wanted to run my business, sell our sandwiches and our platters of meat, give good job opportunities to people, and try to enrich my local community with the kind of food that I can make. I've been put in this strange position where I had no choice but to engage in civil disobedience. So.
Of a lot bigger crowd than Edmonton. I salute you all, freedom fighters. I'm a freedom-loving pathologist, and I've got a big career on the line here. I've spent my entire life in evidence-based medicine, being a good guy, a soldier for organized medicine, and in that's not good enough. I'm spreading, according to them, misinformation, except the only problem is they won't tell you what the information is that I'm misinforming you about.
But you told me that they had their safeties off, right?
Well, there was one guy standing there with the AR, there was kids around, and one fellow said, why do you have ARs, full tactical gear, with you when we're unarmed, and there's kids around?
Oh, there we go, playing most games again.
Yeah.
So, so this is gonna be what you want to share out, guys.
Freedom Report has special guests like April Lejeune, Pat King, Conrad R.C. Goodsir, Artur Pulowski, Misty Wind, Mike Martins, Chris Sky, Jason J. Manpachernik, Aaron Barker, Dr. Daniel McGassett, Adam Skelly.
And you have to prove that you have a lawful reason to be there. And I say your lawful reason is Section 6 of
You don't have you have a lawful reason to be here because you're a citizen of Canada.
That's right.
Everything about all the corruption and the voting scandals. Just wait till
Police started coming in and taking people's stuff again, and I thought that was illegal. They just said that the first time they're supposed to return everything.
Freedom Report. Broadcast starts now. Thank you for watching.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Friday night. Got a bunch of great guests for you tonight again. Derek, you're muted. And we got Stefanos in the green room.
Noticed that.
We got Stefanos in the green room. We got Glenn in the green room. We got Jenny May in the green room. Let's bring the Stefanos. You picked the topic for tonight.
That's
Howdy,
my
Captain.
blame me. It's all my fault. So I think this healthcare problem that's going on, not only in BC and all across Canada, but Ontario, and I'm going to pick on these two provinces alone for right now, for good reason. But can you believe it? At the beginning of all this so-called pandemic in Ontario, they fired onwards and over 10,000 healthcare workers because there just wasn't work for them. Never mind how many other thousands and tens of thousands were fired because they wouldn't bow down to the coercion of getting the poisonous jabs that is now coming out on just how dangerous they are and the amount of people who have been adversely affected from them. So let's add a little bit more matters, make it worse. You can come back to work, but you're still going to have to get vaccinated. In the meantime, we're going to bring foreign workers to Ontario and BC just so they can take your jobs. And some of them, as in the case in Ontario, are doing the train and stay, they call it. So they will train them and then they will be allowed to stay. Remember, all the unvaccinated workers, there was no restrictions for any foreign workers that were coming before. So doesn't this seem like an attack on our healthcare system? This is nothing about protecting our healthcare system, as we hear Cheesecake Doug Ford going on about saying he's got to protect the healthcare system. This has got nothing to do with anything to do with protecting the healthcare system, and all about to do with destroying lives, destroying jobs, and destroying this beautiful country that we have.
All right, let's bring in Glenn. What can I say about Glenn? He's one of the key people.
Hi, Stefanos. Hello, everyone.
How's it going, Glenn? Tell us a little bit about yourself. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Well, I was an LPN in my local hospital until I volunteered for the COVID-4, and then I got hurt. And then on my waiting to return to work, they brought in the mandates. I saw it coming long before then. I helped organize the September 1st rally, and then lo and behold, I got the termination because I didn't tell them whether it'd been injected or not. I just said it's none of their choice to know. It's not their right to know.
So somewhere through the course of history and events, you got to meet Jenny.
Yes.
She disappeared, but she's still in the green room somewhere. Anyways, we'll bring Jenny on when she's back, which is now. Hi, Jenny. How's it going?
Hi.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
I'm a former nurse in Ontario who, with everything else, like Glenn, kind of got showed the door. I was one of the first ones in my area in South Windsor or South Western Ontario in 2020. I stepped in front of City Council. I was a target from the College of Nurses of Ontario and my employer starting in May of 2020. We'd only been on the original 14 days to flatten the curve at that point for 6 weeks. So, yeah, I had a little bit of a target.
All right, great. So, Glenn, you got limited time, so we're going to get moving on your stuff and what's happening with you. And Stefanos, when you unfreeze, I bet you got a bunch of questions. And if you can just let us know what's...
A few moments later.
That's for Stefanos. There we go. Stefanos, go ahead. No, now he's back.
Hey, I made it.
1 hour later.
So, what's going on in BC?
Who wants to take this question?
Other than they're bringing in foreign workers to meet their self-inflicted staffing crisis. I know I just was reading up on it because of the interview today. They're saying almost 2,500 nurses alone were let go over the mandate.
Yep.
That's not counting housekeeping, care aides, physicians, just nurses.
Yes, and then they're bringing back 1,600 foreign trained, and then they're including $9 million in bursaries to help with the cost of assessment fees, which is funny because we're going to roll that into the Ontario thing that they're trying to do, because they're trying to eliminate the Canadian assessment for foreign nurses in Ontario.
And then the other rumor that they're going to pay them more.
I'm more concerned. Canadian nurses are known for being top trained nurses globally. We don't know where these nurses are coming from, and now you're not going to assess their skills. You're not going to assess their nursing requirements. Whether I agree with what's the ideology of my former governing college or not, I have big issues with individuals coming in to take care of our people in this province or country that aren't being properly assessed for what their skills actually are.
Yeah, and let's just add a little more insult to injury here. There's $12 million being spent in BC alone, and that's just to fast track the registration and the licensing process for foreign trained nurses to, address this self-inflicted shortage they've done. So what's our level of healthcare going to go? I know a lot of people didn't like our healthcare system the way it was to begin with. Now we're going to have poorly trained, if they even have any level of training whatsoever, and they're just going to fast track it and push it all through. We're going to have a big problem in healthcare.
And that's still 800 less than they actually terminated.
Yeah.
Right. And like I said, I don't know, did they do anything in BC? Would you guys even know, like they done in Ontario right before the pandemic, and fire a massive amount of them stating that there was no work?
No, we've been chronically short in BC. I remember 1998 was the last nurses strike here, I believe. And I remember them standing in front of the hospital, and every sign was staffing levels, unsafe work practices, patient care. And it just seems like nobody's done anything in the intervening time. And then let's just throw more wood on the fire. Let's terminate a bunch of people. My hospital ran at 120% before COVID on a good day.
Mm-hmm.
And then those injuries and all that stuff was there before COVID.
Yeah. And when you're talking, see, this is the thing, when you're talking capacity, and especially hospitals, like this is a play on that concept. And Glenn, I can see you smiling, right? We're at full capacity. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, the capacity is directly linked to how many registered staff they have on the floor. So everybody thinks, holy God, all the hospitals are at capacity. Well, you only have half your hospital nursing staff there. So capacity isn't bursting at the brims. Capacity isn't having any beds. Oh my gosh, there's no beds. No, there are no beds that a nurse can monitor, assess, and have under their care. That's where the problem is. So people are like, oh my gosh, our hospitals are overflowing. No, they're not. Our hospitals have been stripped of the proper staffing levels to be able to afford the patients to coming into the door, to give them safe treatment, because they keep on upping the level and the number of patients per staff member, which is horrible. Nurses run for a reason. A lot of people think they're, we've got attitude. Well, we don't need a break, or we don't get breaks, especially at a hospital level. But that's the link between capacity and nursing staff levels. And it's a trickery that they play in the paper all the time. We're at capacity. Well, because you fired everybody. So
the ICU is full. It's always full. You triage the people in there. If you had 3 people in there with COVID that you really didn't feel comfortable moving, but you had a mass trauma come in and you needed those 3 ICU beds, those COVID patients would find homes somewhere else in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I'll give you all a good example of what my knowledge is on the political aspect. I know in the last election in provincial elections in Ontario, when I was running in Niagara West, what ended up coming to light was I believe this was when Kathleen Wynne was on her way out and Ford was coming in. So go figure. Orville Redenbacher goes goodbye and we bring cheesecake. So, and nothing's any sweeter than it was before. And so one of the things, I think we were somewhere, if I remember the numbers correctly, I think we were around either 32 million or 64 million that were going towards the LHINs and everything. They were saying that, you know, they didn't have money for making hospital beds and all this, and we were all short. What ended up coming to light was on those funds that are provided, about 70% of those funds that are supposed to be going to healthcare for hospitals for beds, we're not going there. It was all going to growing governments. They were putting bureaucrats in. They wanted more phone answering people. And I know people that are in the LHINs who let me know that they were told not to answer the phone for about 2 weeks straight. They wouldn't answer the phones. They just let them ring so they can sit there and pretend that they are, understaffed and they need more money. And this was a way to get the government to give them more money. So, and of course, so they're going to answer or hire more people to answer phones instead of making beds available and hire more healthcare workers. And, so all of our tax money is just going to go to big government and growing big government. So we see what the effects of that is when it comes to the hospitals. There are no beds. I remember Ford, what was it, last year, made a big stink in the article like it was a giant thing that they managed to get 6 more beds in a hospital. I was like, what? 6?
Anybody know how many beds have been closed through this scamdemic?
How many beds have been what? Closed?
How many beds were closed in hospitals around Ontario?
I have no idea. Couldn't tell you.
Nobody keeps those numbers, nor does the mainstream media. But I can tell you there's a lot of bed closures. And again, this just adds to what you're saying, Jenny, that they're playing numbers, they're playing on games, they're playing on people's emotions.
100%.
I remember just about a year ago when we had the last scare, it was me, Kevin Johnson, went into the ER department. And the mayor, remember the mayor was saying, oh, we've got a crisis going on. The ER is overflowing. It's the world is going to end, basically, if you're going to be sick. And the place was pretty much abandoned except for 2 more low-end security personnel that were watching the door, restricting people from coming in. Emergency was completely empty. The same applies to Markham Stouffville. The parking lots were even empty. There was no one even in the emergency visitor parking, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 cars. Usually it's more than half full. So
yeah,
people got smart and they figured, well, we're going to die and best place to get sick is in a hospital, especially because they're saving money by not cleaning the places properly.
Nosocomial infection. That's what it's called.
So I was in the hospital once for about 3 weeks, going back 2013, 2014, basically in jail. And I came in with 1 bug, and after 4 days, I had 3 or 4 super bugs.
Yep.
So where did that come from? I didn't have one that came in.
Well, that's what they say. Get the hell out as quick as you can when you're in a hospital.
Well, the thing is,
that's where people go when they're sick, and you're right. The emergency rooms were clear. They were, I think I went into the hospital. I had to go to the hospital once over the past 2 years for my sinuses, and I never wore a mask, but I'll tell you what, I walked in there was nobody there. 1 person, they were shocked to see me walk in. Like it was just a ghost town. So a lot of money being saved on the extracurricular people that they don't really need, supposedly, with everybody else and the public shut out of, wanting to go in and, I don't know, providing people with what they need the most when they're sick and ill, their family and loved ones. But hey,
So, anyways, I bet you these beds were being closed because hospitals were abandoned, and so the government's saving money, keeping nursing and doctor staff at home. I know a lot of doctors were not happy about what was going on. And personally, I know an orthopedic surgeon that moved from one hospital, and this guy was like the best of the best. Moved from Markham up to Newmarket. And you know why he moved? Because they promised him more operating room time.
Yep.
That was the only reason for him to move. And he uprooted his house, his family, everything, and moved, 40 or 50K from Markham Stouffville up to South Lake.
Yeah, and they're also a lot of the doctors and stuff. They get out of Ontario, and they go to the U.S. to work. They're allowed to open up private clinics, all this other stuff, which is what we need to have done here, I think. But I'll answer your question of your super bugs. Remember back when the old deadly SARS came out and everyone was supposedly dying? Next thing you know, they put hand sanitizers everywhere. But then they were telling everybody not to clean everything because the bugs are getting immune to it and it's not doing anything to it. So they're becoming resistant. And now we're in this so-called pandemic, and it's like sanitizers out the freaking door, like out the yin yang there. So these guys, people have short memory, and that's just human nature. And we forget about these things. But, I like to tend to stick on these things because I remember what they do in the past to us. So that's more likely why your superbug problems happen. They were having these superbug outbreaks in the prisons and everything else. So this is the excuse to let murderers and pedophiles out in the same day and keep people fighting for freedom in for 50 plus days.
Back when I was in 1982, I think I was working at Sunnybrook Hospital. I used to work part-time. My shift was from 5 until 9. And we had enough staff to clean our section of the hospital from top to bottom. And this happened every day that section was open. That was a cancer clinic. And you could literally eat off of these floors.
Mm-hmm.
Every floor was wiped down, was dust mopped, then was cleaned with strong bleach type of chemicals, but mostly bleach and water, rinsed. And then 1/3 of the floor would be buffed and polished every night. This happened, and the floors were immaculate. I also had a coworker, and everything above the crown, the baseboard molding and up, every surface was literally washed down, minimum once a night. And this happened every day. The last time in 2014 when I was up at South Lake, I seen the cleaner twice in the course of 2 weeks, and I was locked in my room. And he was only there for maybe 15, 20 minutes, and he's limited on the time that he can spend cleaning. The guy was working his butt off. So they understaffed the cleaning staff, and then they wonder why people are getting secondary infections because the hospital is not being cleaned properly whatsoever. But because the top guy of the hospital that runs the joint, because they're private corporations or something like that, he gets to give himself a nice fat raise. So he's making 6 digits. Meanwhile, the whole system is collapsing. That's what I got to say about superbugs.
Well, to show government wastage, they put in that whole new tower at my hospital, and the whole census went up, I think, 20 beds for $6 billion. Like, there's going to be some money.
In my area, they're making a super hospital, and we're losing beds. So you tell me how that works out. Yeah. We're taking 3 hospitals. I don't know if they're doing the one out on the one side, but we're at least 2, and we're losing beds. But it's a new hospital. So don't worry. We don't have enough beds that it is, but we're not going to even give you as many as we have now.
They don't have the staff either now, right?
No. I don't know. So
Yeah, and then somebody in the chat here said about MRSA. Yeah, that's what was breaking out in the jails quite a bit, at least down at the Thorold Inn here in the Falls. But this is now all these bills again. You have to read the bills. So we have Bill 88. That's the one for Ontario, and that ties into Bill 106, which is the Pandemic and Emergency Preparedness Act. So these things, and it's all about digital monitoring. Everything is about digital. And if you've heard everything about coming on to the digital banking, everything's going digital. They're pushing the whole thing. So where they talk about the Bill 106 is in the Niagara Independent article. I think I put all the links up for you in the private chat. So this kind of stuff is crazy because you can see how it's going in. So these are permanent raises they're getting, right? So this is the $3 a year and stuff, and then you have the they're going to invest $142 million for the Learn and Stay grant. The Learn and Stay grant is for the foreign workers again. So we obviously know they're not reading the requirements that are needed to fit the standard of care that our healthcare workers are to uphold in order to get their licensing and stuff to be able to practice and work. But these people are coming in, they're going to fast track everything to get them all licensed and out into the hospitals. They don't know what they're doing, obviously, and you can say that just by reading their articles, reading their bills. $142 million. That's in Ontario. Never mind the rest in BC. And I really wonder if there are any other provinces. I just really came up about this today and yesterday that I started seeing this stuff. And this is all taxpayers' money going to being invested to steal jobs from Canadians. This is not going to end well for our own healthcare system, which they keep saying. When you hear Ford, at least in Ontario, speak about the healthcare system, he's going on saying about how we need to protect the healthcare system by not letting anyone into the freaking to be seen by hospitals. I know so many people that have been denied access into the hospitals, have been denied getting any health care needed. They just flat out won't let them in, and they'll kick them out. And quite serious injuries that they've had that they haven't been allowed to be in there. And I've spoken with a slew of healthcare workers on the when they brought the temporary ones in on how people's wounds from operations there are not being the bandages are not being changed. They're getting infections, all sorts of stuff happening. And again, what's going to happen when they bring untrained foreign healthcare workers here? What is our system going to be? And you know what? My father passed away last year in June. When I was at the hospital there, emergency was empty. Nobody in ICU. When they ended up taking my father to ICU, he was the only one in there. Ambulance was sitting there. I think they had 4 people just sitting there on their laptops and their phones doing whatever. They're just nothing going on, and everyone is being denied health care. So this kind of fits the narrative on we have to strip you of all your rights in order to protect your rights and to protect democracy. But now we're stripping you of all medical service. How many people's cancer treatments, any other important operations, life-saving operations were all put on hold because of this garbage. We're in a heap of trouble.
Okay, you know what though? Can I just interject for a second, Stefanos? This Bill Bill 88, in regards to the $3 an hour raise, I know a lot of people in the field. I don't think this is specific, that $3 a raise is specific just to foreign credentialed workers, but I will tell you what it is. They did not include nurses. That's what they didn't do with that. Like, they didn't include nurses for that $3. They did all the PSWs, DSWs, and the child and support the child and community and social services, providing personal direct support with the activities of daily living. So I guess nurses don't help with that, according to Ford and his government.
Yeah, that, you're absolutely correct, and this is one of the things that I was getting shocked about here, and what's going on here. So, and I have no problems with people immigrating to Canada. That's not a problem at all. My parents are immigrants, but in those days you had to bring something of value into the country in order to come. They're no longer, pay attention to the wording, they're no longer called immigrants. First they went to undocumented, from illegals to now it's migration. So these are migrants. They're just simply migrating from one country to the other. They're replacing our workers now. This is after the government fired tens of thousands of workers in Ontario alone, never mind any of the other provinces, before this pandemic, or whatever you want to call it. But now there was coercion, which is absolutely illegal. You can't force someone to go against your constitutional rights. And this is what I'm talking about. The corruption is so unreal. And now we have this. Is our healthcare going to get better, or is our healthcare going to get worse? You might as well stick me as a nurse or a doctor and let me put you under the knife and see how it turns out.
I wouldn't want to go under knife right now anywhere in Canada.
Nope.
No, that's what I've heard too.
And I'd be getting a lawyer to sign up something real tight and quick saying you are not. Yeah, some of the documentation I'm seeing right now with assumed risk of when you're put under, or I don't know the proper verbiage, so I'm not even going to try it, but it was disgusting and I went even sick. So.
Did I just hear a gag?
Maybe just a little, maybe. So
I've heard from so many people, they're just scared to go in now. Just plain scared for various reasons.
Yeah, I hear. So there was a couple of stories I read where when somebody went in for an operation, they ended up jabbing them while they were out. There's a whole bunch of crazy stuff going on now. This is why I always say read everything. Wording's everything. So these stuff they get you to sign off, are you actually agreeing to be jabbed while you're out, or is this a requirement? So we have to pay attention what's going on. I'm just super shocked that there's been nothing in the courts from the people, no class action from the vax injured, like nothing. And again, I always say we have ourselves to blame because we don't stand up.
But we don't. Some of us don't, but some, the problem, we've talked about this before, Stefano. Some can't because it's the financial aspect. It's the ability to get the representation needed with topics and subjects, especially with the heat from the government and the BS coming in from that. It's the affordability of it. It's the affordability to keep them accountable, and that's why they're getting away with it, because they can do whatever they want. It's easier to get permission or to get forgiveness than to ask for permission. They've been doing that for the past, I'm not way beyond the past 2 years, but especially the past 2 years.
Right. Agreed. Yeah, we have had that discussion. There are ways around it, but still, I don't think that every single person can be. We got to take a stand somewhere.
I agree.
Yeah, it needs to happen.
But again, with media being the way it is, it probably is happening, and we're just not getting any coverage on it because they're blacking it out. Even with all the different media outlets we try to keep going, who knows?
Yeah,
It's hard to get the words out there.
Like, it looks like in BC, they have moved forward, and it's going to, if I read correctly, hold on. It's expected. There's been a petition filed in BC Supreme Court asking it to strike down the vaccine mandate over charter rights, and because Henry has failed to provide a meaningful process for exemptions. So that looks like it's expected to be heard this summer.
Yeah. So,
and that was started 2 years ago.
Exactly.
Yeah. And this is just it, right? So in the meantime, we just got to keep towing the line. We got to keep going. Any new stuff they come up with, we got to push back against. Like, we can't sit back and just let them get away with it. Absolutely not. Now, I was going to say something, but I can't remember. So it must be some timers kicking in. I'm getting up there in age. So, oh well.
A few moments later.
2 more weeks, 2 more years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so blown away at how, you're right, the government has kind of had its way to run the court or run the field on us.
Mm-hmm.
They've got the courts where the judges they're appointed by the court or by the government. They sit there and then are paid by the government, and yet they're supposed to listen to these lawsuits, and they just, Bonnie Henry hasn't had enough time to bring the science together. You've had 2 years. Why can't you bring your evidence to the court?
They had the evidence to implement the mandate.
Yeah.
How hard is it to bring it up and find that file, girl? You're gonna start calling it the Clinton file.
Yeah, well, that's not going to turn out well for them, and that's a good thing. But what I was going to say is, even down here in St. Catharines, with the public transit en masse, since the mask mandates are dropped and all that, there's been a young lady who has been getting harassed by a bus driver over and over. All of these are recorded, every interaction. There's been several complaints put in. All the managers, the supervisors, they're all aware of this, and that there's 2 bus drivers in particular, and there's been multiple complaints put on them, and their supervisors say they're not supposed to enforce them, and they're not supposed to police them. And they said, if you simply just don't want to wear a mask because you don't want to wear a mask, you don't have to wear a mask, period. So this is all on record. And I was trying to get it out to the media, and the media was interested, and then suddenly silence. Now, the latest version of this, the supervisor has come right out and admitted that a lot of the bus drivers have anxiety now. Well, this anxiety, I believe it's a mental illness that has been caused by the government fear-mongering and all these masks for over the last couple of years or so. So this has really stuck people with mental illness, that they are literally harassing people now. Could you imagine? You can't go get your child or your mother or anything because they're doing this kind of stuff, right? We've seen the assaults happen in the Canadian Tires and stuff, but so, all of this has had an effect from this type of stuff to healthcare, and I'm just super concerned about healthcare because of the very fact that we're going to have foreign workers here. Not that I'm against that, but they should be Canadian citizens, they should be immigrants, and they should be properly licensed and have the proper training. Not hire them now. Whoever dies because of their lack of knowledge or their negligence, let's throw all this money at them to get trained and everything, and then what? What are we going to do in the meantime? Kick out everybody who has a half a brain and won't take the poison? We've seen how dangerous this poison is.
Are these new workers going to be jabbed?
I believe not. I seen something about unvaccinated workers, unvaccinated foreign workers.
Glenn, get out of my head. Like, I'm about to go as red as your face right now. You have no idea.
Derek, look it up.
Nobody can see my face. I'm behind Hamza's comment. Nobody can see my face, and I swear I'm probably no. I'm like going so. Yeah, I'm not seeing any mention of a requirement anywhere.
No,
and I'm going through.
and they did specify unvaccinated foreign workers.
Oh, why is that? I wonder why. Why specifically do they need untreated? I'm vaxxed. I've got all my child vaccinations that I was supposed to get prior
And
to
extra time.
prior to 2019. I've had everything.
Yeah, no, not me. I've never had anything, and I'm still alive, so I don't know why they're not doing experiments on me to see why I'm not dead yet, but oh well.
Well, yeah, venom, exactly. Well, you know, the biggest thing about, I've said this several times when I've talked to people and in front of groups, all this talk about how membership, all this talk about vaccinated and feeling safe and everything else, and are, well, you vaccinated, you have childhood vaccinations. I'm gone. All I can see is Freedom Report. Tell people to go and get their titers done, and see how vaccinated they are. I would love for them to call in and let us know how many of your MMRs are up to date, or any of these other ones that you think you're walking around being so perfectly immune. You're not. Get your blood work done. Go check it out. Usually the only people that know that kind of thing are healthcare individuals, because I know, for example, my MMR was below serum levels for immunity back in early 2020, because I had to get my blood work done for a job, nursing job. So, and no, I did not get my booster for that either. And I'm okay sharing that information. You can keep your MRC5 and all that to yourself.
So so they're talking in which one was it now? They're talking about unvaccinated. Oh yeah, that's it. And they're saying that healthcare workers who were testing positive were still allowed to go back as long as we're showing mild signs of asymptomatic.
Mild or yeah, very, yeah. She had that from the start. Yeah, with
So,
the.
so is it that doesn't asymptomatic mean you're not
healthy?
Yeah.
The funny one I had over here was their criteria for you to return to work, and I know this because my wife is a care aide, is you could be positive for COVID as long as you're not spiking a fever anymore, that you have to take Tylenol.
Does it have to be Tylenol, or can you go with Advil?
It was any antipyretic.
Yeah, so that this kind of crazy stuff, like, and just the big thing that I have is the asymptomatic period. Like, how can you show signs of being sick if you're asymptomatic? So it's boggling to me. Maybe it's something to do with healthcare and something that
apparently I'm asymptomatic.
What's that, Derek?
When I went to the hospital, apparently I'm asymptomatic.
So you were fine. You mean you were feeling good?
Yeah. No. Apparently I had COVID, but I had tested positive, but I didn't feel a thing.
Interesting. So how can they even allow these tests when they're not accurate at all? I think I've seen a video somewhere where either it was a kiwi or a pineapple tested positive. Like, what kind of insanity are we living in right now?
Don't forget, motor oils tested positive too for COVID.
I didn't know about that one, Ed.
Or the one I love is the last outbreak we had, major one we had at our hospital. Out of the 46 people who at the end finally tested positive for this, only 5 were not vaccinated. 81% of the people, including staff and patients, were all vaccinated who were caught in the last outbreak. And no unvaccinated person could go in the hospital at that point unless you were sick.
And I hear now the majority of the deaths are people who are now fully vaccinated. So, you know, I'm going to pick on our legal system a little bit because I've said this before and I'll say it again. If all the statistics are coming out of the CDC and our municipalities are using the CDC for their statistics, supposedly, why are no peer-reviewed medical reports out of the US or any other country in the world allowed to be used in the courts? And only the Canadian peer-reviewed reports are allowed to be used in a court case, which makes no sense because they're getting their info from the CDC, but you as a defendant or a plaintiff can't use the CDC information. So, and I've asked this before, does medical science work different in other countries than it does in Canada?
Supposedly.
I always thought science was science here, so it's going to work the same everywhere.
Well, that's the whole thing, right? Follow the science. Follow it where they want you to follow it, and distract where they want you to get distracted from. So,
yeah, they did do this type of thing also with our wind turbines. They said on the electromagnetic interference coming from them that you couldn't use any other reports out of any other country. They've done the same thing. And then when you would read the Canadian reports, they would always throw in may cause. So they would never say it does cause any type of cancers or anything else. I know there's people who are hypersensitive to EMF and stuff like that. So it's just, if you ask me, it looks like the government is playing on words in order to be able to push something they want to push, be it right or wrong.
yeah, but they've always been doing the play on words. They've done it even when Moore came out and said, "Oh, to the employers, no, we suggested that you mandate it. We didn't tell you that you had to mandate it." And if some of us caught that. I did. Yeah. Just you wait. They're going to flip it. They're going to tell you. They're going to make it seem like you have to, but they're not going to protect you at the end. And a lot of employers, they're going to be in a lot of trouble.
The public health order in BC said that we were supposed to be put on unpaid leave of absence. Nowhere did it say termination.
Well, that's because unpaid leave means you're terminated. So they're just there's no such thing in the legal realm as unpaid leave. Definite unpaid leave. That means you're fired. So usually, as a disciplinary action, if you do something wrong, they'll say you're on unpaid leave for a week or 2 weeks or whatever. That's fine. But indefinite unpaid leave is really a constructive dismissal. That means you have been terminated, and you can't collect EI, you can't get any of your benefits, you can't do anything, so you're terminated. It's a constructive dismissal, and this is where they have been losing in the courts.
And in Ontario, they actually had an option that nobody offered from the government, which was watching an educational video on the benefit of vaccinations. And funny enough, that option got dropped, and it's still on, and it was part of the mandate, and it's out there somewhere. I read it, and it was one of the options, and they never allowed it. Like most places did not allow it. They didn't even read it. Who knows if they even knew about it, because none of them read the actual acts. What they read were the updates and directions and protocols that they received from the local health agencies or the Ministry of Long-Term Care or what have you, and none of them actually read the act. None of them. If you go to any of these places, the people that are running them, oh, we were told to do that. We got a memo. We got an email. Our head office. That was an option for nurses out there and people that didn't want the shot, and they directly refused it from the government, that there was an educational video or some option where you sat down and you were basically condescendingly told what a bad decision you were making and trying to convince you to do otherwise, but it was an option.
Yeah, and you're a little bit mistaken now. The Ontario never mandated this ever. And now you have your top doc came out and said, we never mandated vax passes ever or stuff like that. But
okay, because of that last statement that nobody paid attention to. You don't have to get vaccinated. You can have your staff watch a video. And I read that and I'm like, that's their get out of jail free card. And no employer followed it. Why, Stefanos? Because they were told, as per the mandate that didn't exist, that you have to do that. No, it was strongly suggested, and nobody read their homework or read the assignment, which was the actual bill. That's what happened. I know exactly, but it was an option because that option made it not a mandate.
That's right, and the government right out and said they never ever mandated it, and now on top of it, just to add a little more insult to injury, they they went and it was the media who kept saying it's mandated. And you remember that it was over and over. It's and this all makes sense. Remember, Freeland was out there. I think it was Freeland who was saying that if they say it loud enough and repeat it over and over, then the people will believe it. That's a straight up propaganda brainwash technique used. And that's why they paid the media so much money to push this garbage over and over. And now all of a sudden you got a country full of scared sheep and believing that it was mandated when it wasn't.
Yep. And nobody reads
Stockholm Syndrome a la carte.
Yeah, 100% for sure.
Yeah. No, they seem to ignore that. Then they thought it was, and employers actually thought that they had a choice. No, they didn't realize. No, you didn't have the choice. The employee had the choice. You took that from them. I have no patience for any employer out there who did this to your employees, who made them think that they had to do this to get their livelihood. I have no sympathy, I hate to say, for you when the lawsuits start flowing. Not after what people have gone through. Not after, and I'm not like the mental health of so many out there by the abuse of this system in the past 2 years and what they've done. That's crazy. Sorry, I know that's kind of an off comment, but and all the government wiped away all the responsibility like they knew they would from the start because of what? Language. Nobody paying attention to plain old English and reading things.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Don't sign anything till you read it. Wow.
Anyways, I'm sorry, guys. I got to run. Have a great night. Thank you for having me on, Stefanos. Take care, guys.
See you again, Glenn. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So I don't know if you guys are reading any of that stuff I was scrolling through. It all says the directors can make policies as they wish.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't do anything about it.
Yeah, well,
they become gods in their own right.
That's right. And the policies, again, all the court cases that the employers are losing is because of policies. Now, what they've done in Alberta, I haven't seen any in Ontario, but Alberta's written up policy, and then they say the policy does not apply to you if you were hired before, but in a certain situation, they are, this person's been there, I think, 14 years or so. So the new policy doesn't apply to them. And here they are saying, oh, but if you're going to come back to work, the policy does apply to you. And at the end of the day, you're going to have to get jabbed up. So it's all a play on garbage. They can't force anyone to sign anything and agree to anything. No new contracts or anything. You can still keep operating off the old contracts. Again, pressure put on them to coerce them into complying, which is a constructive dismissal.
Constructive dismissal.
So what are we going to do about it?
Oh, you're looking at me for the answer.
We both are. We both are.
When you go through the processes and you go through the whole steps, and of course healthcare, the majority is union. There's a big problem because a lot of unions are not representing their people. You know, I was contacted by union in BC. I won't say who, but several times I simply did not answer because why would the union want to contact me, and for what reason? It's been pretty clear what their union stance is. We know unions such as OPSU, QP, they're rife with communists and they're rife with Antifa members. They're flying the OPSU flag and the QP flag right alongside the communist flag. So this obviously tells you why they're not representing the people. Unions. It's time for the unions to go goodbye. They have to be terminated. They don't represent their workers. They're taking their paychecks. What's that?
You can divorce your union.
Oh,
like people, this is always like, oh, but you gotta wait. You gotta go through the process with the union. When I was leaving a couple of years ago, I called the union, or last year, I said I want it because I was Unifor and they were supporting all kinds of crap, and I was disgusted. And I said, I don't want you representing me. You're not representing me. I don't want my, and I was told I just need to get a letter and basically just an official notice that I'm not requesting representation from my union anymore. And a lot of people are saying that it's a lot more difficult to get out of that relationship with your union. I'm not understanding why, because I had a very blunt conversation with my rep, and we got along actually very well, and I told her my concerns, and it wasn't an issue. People just step away from them. Like they're not for you. They are definitely for the corpse. They are definitely getting their pockets filled by the people they're taking from us. So divorce them. Unions came in decades ago for reasons that were needed back then. Now they've just flipped the tide. The union, it's just another little mini form of government controlling you and your money and where it goes and how it's spent and how you're going to spend your time. Get rid of them.
One more dictatorship in the peg there. That's all.
Exactly.
I've seen stuff from unions given to the workers on who they're going to vote for and everything else. So you don't even have the choice of who you're going to vote for politically. So, there's a serious problem here with unions. They've gotten out of control. They're not even supposed to be using that money to support things such as the We movement. We know good old boy Smokey there. He got sued for misappropriation of funds already before, but they're right at it again. And, OPSU's on its way out from what I hear. So anyone working for them, best grab your pensions while you can.
Yeah. They indoctrinate their members.
I'm wondering if you should do a show with carrying torches and sticks.
Oh, no, Ed, you don't want to taint it like that. Oh, my goodness. Could you imagine?
Well, I'm just
you remember what they did in Edmonton with the tiki torches here? Like even in Calgary, they made it seem like a bad idea. So no torches, please.
Yeah, don't be a white supremacist.
Unifor and Trudeau are in bed together. Absolutely. It was last summer that Jerry Diaz was in Quebec with Trudeau, and they were talking about how they're going to get the government to fund money for General Motors plant that had gone empty in Oshawa, and that the government was going to buy this out, and that Unifor would provide the staffing. Of course they would. And the management. Crown Corporation.
That name got me banned.
Who got you banned?
I said Jerry D. That got me banned mentioning him in my Facebook for 29 days, which I just got off of like 2 hours ago.
Oh my God. Is that what it was? I was trying to figure out what was so bad that you done.
I might have called him a name. You know what? I was a member of Unifor, and my local, I had choice words for them, and they actually called me and said I needed to apologize like I was a little kid. I was, you have to say sorry for your words. No, I don't. I'm a grown up. I can say what I want sometimes.
Yeah, so Nadine's got this one pretty figured out. Want immigrant workers when they boot the people out to get employers subsidies for wages for immigrants. This rolls right back into 2018, where we had the was it illegal immigrants? No, they renamed them back then. And
undocumented.
And everyone's got a right to work. So how come we don't have the right to work?
Everyone but Canadians. So let's bring them all in. We've had China here. Where else? Who else do we have here? Like, we have every single country under the sun coming in, flooding Canada and taking our jobs, all at the behest of our government.
And don't forget, they're in bed with the guys that are pushing Agenda 2021 and Agenda 2030.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's socialism / communism at its finest.
Yes, Ed. Socialism is the kind word for communism, and it's in everything. Social media, and we see how they control your free speech. It's a dictatorship from top to bottom. Well, Cheryl Don says something interesting. Migrant workers. So before they were migrant workers, they were undocumented because at first they were illegal. So this is the micromanagement that I've been speaking about, where they change it. So now they're called migrant, and it's got nothing to do with immigration or immigrating to another country. This is the migration. This is the replacement of the population. They're moving everyone here from somewhere else, and everyone that is here is fleeing. Canada. It's fleeing like it's God. You're seeing these countries where people are being persecuted, and that's exactly what's happening. Canadians are being persecuted.
So yeah, this is all done through subsidies, and I wonder if that skirts around financial oversight. There's got to be a reason why they're using subsidies.
Well, Laura, I see your comment there. Is it a business idea or a job offer? Like I said before, when immigrants were coming to Canada, they had to bring something with them, that something they had to offer to the country to make it a better place. This isn't even offering anything now. Now this is just, okay, you didn't take the vaccine, out you go. We created a massive shortage. Come on in, people.
Well, prior to 1965, most people coming to Canada had to have an offer of work, or they had to be high demand in their trained industry, and they had to meet certain tests. They also went into quarantine camps for 2 weeks if they didn't have the proper jobs back in those days. So things have changed since 1965, and who was the leader of the Communist Party back in the 60s in Canada? Pierre Elliott Trudeau. Justin Trudeau's father-in-law.
No.
Stepdad.
Yeah. Stepdad, yes. Castro was so proud of his son.
Oh my God, I know. Yeah. I'm reading the comments.
Polish are not allowed to work in Canada either these days. We are rebellious. I'd say you're quite industrious as a nation.
I want narrative. The problem is they're going to expedite these. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that nurses outside of Canada don't know how to nurse. The issue is, why aren't we evaluating why aren't we evaluating it? Canadian experience.
Yeah, German, that was the way it was before 1965.
It's all for the money.
Yep. Well, too, here, I'm kind of still on the foreign workers thing with the nurses. They're not going to bring any of us back because we're too much. The nurses and everybody that walked off on their own accord, we're critical thinkers, we're outliers, and there's no way. And they know that. We're the ones that can't be controlled. We're the ones that aren't going to sit there, and we're not going to get coerced or bullied or anything else. And they know they're not going to bring us back in. We're the ones that they don't want back in. So.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and that's what I'm talking about. They're just replacing everyone. That's it, and they're going to do it with the health because being part of the plan is they're going to attack the healthcare system, and that's what's under attack right now in our workers. You can't get any more up in your face and not hiding anything than these two bills, Bill 106 and Bill 88.
So again, is it the UN that brought in they brought in these bills, and then it was adopted by the Canadian government, saying that everyone has the right to work?
Well, it's the UN. That's the UNHCR. So again, the UN has no authority in Canada whatsoever. And what they do, since they don't have that, is they get these bought and paid for treasonous traitors to Canada, such as Trudeau and all the rest of them, Doug Ford and the rest. They take their policies. So on the provincial and municipal levels, it's Agenda 21. They take their policies from IGLE, who changed the name to the Canadian Federation of Municipal Council or something like that. Canadian Federation of Municipalities, that's it. And that's on the municipal level. And then you have the provincial guys taking their orders. So UNESCO and stuff, they're the ones controlling all of our education system and telling them what to do. And then you have on the federal level is Agenda 2030. And that is the stuff that they're going on about that we're seeing now on the federal level with all these bills are doing 233, 60, or sorry, 233 and the rest of them. So this is what they're trying to do. And the UN, make no mistake, has several branches. They also create the music. They write the music. They write the news stories. They sitcoms, television, movies. That's all controlled by the UN. And it's just such an attack on the people by so many tentacles. And we have to push back. That's who's bringing all of that in. So it's the UNHCR who's doing the job stuff and the illegals and everything else. It's all right on the UN website. They don't even hide anything.
Well, they don't have to. Nobody reads anything. Nobody cares. Oh, they're not doing that.
Well, you're right, and that kind of drives me crazy because I get bombarded with stuff in Messenger on Facebook with this video and that video. In actual light, there's a lot of these people. They're just capitalizing on this stuff. Nobody is looking. Nobody is looking to actually check what they're talking about. They're just taking everyone's word for it. I don't even want anyone to take my word for it. Do your research. I've said 1,000 times. I'm pointing you to all the bills that are there. I was the first one who was speaking about Bill 100. Nobody was even talking about it. And then I told you guys the night before it got freaking given royal assent stuff. I told you they're doing third reading right now. By tomorrow, by the time you wake up, it's going to be received royal assent in law. And
I knew the week before. Yep. Cheryl, you said Canadian Frontline Nurses. Actually, I'm one of the original ones from Southern Ontario. So, and they're moving mountains. I'm in and out with them all the time. Good group. Amazing group.
Okay, here's a question for you. Can you start your own private healthcare location, or did they make that illegal also? What happened with Ezra Health? Are they up and running or not?
No, you bring this up every time I'm on the show.
Yeah. I was really
Ezra,
looking forward to it.
so out in BC when it started, it came over here and it went off with a bang. A lot of investors stepped forward, stepped back. It was unorganized. It turned into something it wasn't supposed to. With that being said, the amazing people and women and men and individuals across the province that came together, there's been little hubs that have tried to move forward with it. I know that Canadian frontline nurses have been doing a lot. Kristen's amazing. So we would have to follow anybody who wants to open a clinic. If you're in whatever municipality, you'd have to follow any licenses, requirements, things like that. The mandates for the masks and the jabs are from employers themselves and corporations and institutions. So for
the policies they were told to write, right? Is that
right? Well, whatever they did, that's where the mandates came from, were the employers. So if there's a nurse that's working independently, then obviously the only time, though, for example, if you're an advanced foot care nurse and you do home care, this is where they might get you. A lot of nurses are contracted with long-term care. So even though that they're an independent foot care nurse or what have you, they don't have to get the job for their own. Their contracted home might require it for entry, just like they've required family members and everything else to go and visit. So so this was back in October with the private healthcare. So it's not 6 months later. I know that there have been offices and locations and healthcare clinics that have opened up throughout Ontario at different locations. If anybody specifically is looking for an area, reach out. I can try to at least direct you to who may know of that area if there's anything going on. But there's a lot of people in the works for doing exactly that. So they're coming. They're coming. But I know Toronto's got a lot of movement with a possible new hospital that I've heard, with a group of people that have come together and raised money. So healthcare in the next few years is going to be really interesting. I think a lot of it too is going more current healthcare, if you really cut it down, is based on big pharma. Period. You go to the doctor, you go anywhere, and all they do is give you a med, give you a pill, tell you to do something. I see a wave with healthcare where a lot of professionals are now going more of a holistic, let's see what we can do without always having to depend on the big pharma and the multiple medications that so many people are on. So incorporating other alternative therapies in your life, I find that a lot of the professionals that I know are encouraging that as well. So healthcare is going to be, I think it's going to go more towards health and wellness and preventative versus, oh, you've got a problem, let's fix it after the fact. So it's kind of a nice movement to kind of sit back and watch behind the scene. A lot of people are doing a lot. They're doing a lot. It's just, again, with media, a lot of things have to be more quiet because we're being easily targeted, a lot of us out there, and we're trying to do what we can with getting notoriety, but keeping the attention off so we can keep on going on with what we're doing. So.
Okay, so Nadine, there's supposed to be carcinogens in the swab for the COVID test. Demand to see the wrapper first. There's information out there on the carcinogens in these swabs. If you look at those wrappers, all you see is EO. That's it, which is short or abbreviation for ethylene oxide. Very, 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 very nasty stuff. And that's what they used to sterilize the swab, and that stuff stays in the packaging. You can actually smell it when the swab comes out. You guys, have you seen this, Jenny? The
yes.
package, EO.
Yep. I'd be interested in looking at the other swabs that we use in nursing and healthcare. See if it's on that too. We stick things up all the time.
Hang
not
on,
just
Stefanos, I'm gonna go full screen. Hold it there. Back up a bit. Lighting's not good enough. Can't make it out.
Well, it's right.
Well, you sure are holding it still. Thank you for that. Derek?
1 hour later.
French one. That one doesn't work that well.
A few moments later.
There we go. No, the French wouldn't work this time. Got to clean your
A few moments later.
Guys are too much.
Yeah, they're trying hard, Ed. They're trying hard there. They almost kicked me right the hell out this time.
So what did it say on that wrapper? We couldn't read it.
It was saying EO on the little part. It says sterile EO.
Yeah, ethylene oxide.
Yeah.
Huh. So we do swabs up the nose, anal swabs. There's all kinds of swabs. It'd be interesting to know if this is just for COVID swabs or if they're on other ones. Pretty sure you're going to find the same in all of them.
What
If
the
it's-
ethylene oxide is used as the sterilizing agent?
I don't know. I'm just saying it'd be interesting to see. There's been swabs. We've been doing swabs forever. COVID just hasn't brought in this new process of swabbing. The depth that they swab, yeah, but you know, the other swabs that are used, like you guys talked about MRSA, VRE, those are swabs. So it'd be interesting to see about the other ones, what's on there. How long they've been using this kind of treatment on the swabs that we've been using.
So Dee Marie got off her meds by doing intermittent fasting. My doctor was not impressed. Of course he wasn't impressed. Now, how's he going to invoice or bill for...
How's he going to make money if you're not going to visit him?
Yeah, if you're not sick, you're not a very good patient.
Yeah, geez, they can't charge your OHIP there. What's up?
Healthy people don't make money. Yep.
I'm going to try to make myself sick real quick so that way I can make him some money because, you know, they're going to knock me off if I don't make him any.
Well, if you don't go in the hospital, they can't knock you off, can they?
No, I guess not. Well, it depends. Maybe. We'll see.
Workers may be harmed from exposure to it. So last I heard, like I've got a friend that works, she's in the nursing healthcare system still, and she has to swab every time she goes into work.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that they're saying there's been suddenly a massive spike in cancers too. So is this from the swabbing? Is it from the jab? What is it? Nothing's changed except for that kind of stuff. So should be really asking that question.
Well, a lot of doctors are claiming that these toxic injections knock back your immune system. 20% for the first one, 20% for the second one. So now you're down 40%. Then you get the booster. They knock it down even more. And then suddenly, if they're sticking these swabs up your nose, don't be surprised if you get brain cancer or lung cancer, because it is a gas, but you think they would let these things air out for a couple minutes? Probably not. Just want to open it up and get it done, right?
Hey, did I just see RC there? I didn't know he was on tonight. So,
big surprise. We're doing a for those of you that are RC the Rapper fans, we're going to have a
pre-premiere, post-premiere, because he already premiered it at 11 o'clock.
So, thank you, Derek. When are we doing that, by the way?
At the end of the show, I think, or do you want to do it now?
We still got a lot of stuff to discuss, so let's keep going. Save RC for the end, I guess.
All right.
Stefanos, there's a bunch of other stuff we had to talk about tonight too. Remember what that was?
no, I know. Like I said, Bill 106 ties into 88, and they're getting support also from the federal government. So I'm still digging into all of this stuff. There's just so much of it, and like always, all these bills are tying into other bills, so this is a big problem. But this is, they have to tie into one another in order for foreign workers to become permanent with training, right? And that is because that's a federal issue, not a provincial issue. So this is where everything ties in, and they have control over the food production, everything. 106 is quite the scary bill.
Federal Florida judge rendered mask mandate irrationally unconstitutional because virus knows not to infect you when you're eating or drinking.
And that's what I was saying down here. Pella would have these massive get-togethers, and the municipality put them on. There was absolutely zero social distancing, no mask, and good on them. I'm never going to knock them for that. That's how it should be. And, COVID is such a powerful thing, but government's more powerful. It knows not to go into those parties when they're happening and infect people. So they're going to keep away because that's money for the municipality.
Okay, Jenny, have we covered everything we need to cover on this subject? What can the public do to help you?
What can the public do to help? Well, we got to start. I'm lost because people are thinking that, first of all, stop filling out those petitions online. They don't do anything.
Yeah, petitions don't do anything.
Pardon?
I said petitions don't do anything.
Well, the ones online don't. So people, think that, and it's almost like a trickery. They send them, they fill them out. They're like, oh, I'm good. I don't have to do a petition. I already did it online. Get petitions going. Get involved. Start calling in members of parliament, provincial and federally. Start going to your local gathering if there's a protest, if there's a rally. You know what? This legislated crap that they're throwing at us, it's because we're just sitting back. There's the fringe minority needs to get a lot more smaller. We're playing opposite day. So start seeing where you can help. And because it's not going to stop until enough people stand up. So yeah, they're also saying that heart attacks, by the way, this comment, I live in one of the warmest, hottest spots in all of Canada. And now they're saying that high humidity can give an increase in heart attacks. Never ever heard that before.
Humidity, winter, all of it, young people just dropping dead at sporting events now, normalizing everything. And you're absolutely right. Online petitions do nothing. And there was an article on that too. So the only petitions that mean anything and they have to abide by are paper petitions. You have to have paper petitions, have an MP or an MPP, whatever level of government you're doing it for, and have them on paper. That's the only way. Online petitions are used by these politicians in order to gauge their performance to see how.
Change.org is Soros, isn't it?
Yeah, just for their performance level, so they can gauge it. It's a self performance test, basically.
Yeah. Doctors yeah, and just pay attention to what's going on here instead of the distractions. People have to be more aware of what's going on, and I think that's the biggest thing. And it's a huge battle because we've got mainstream media that's just completely infected every household, and it's a sickness, and they're so indoctrinated. And that's what happens. Nobody's aware of what's going on. Nobody's aware of 106, Bill 88, Bill 100, anti-protest. Nobody's aware of it, and I've heard that compassion can work better than fear. So maybe we all just have to kind of deal and approach everybody from a compassionate view and get them to realize that it's not going to stop, and healthcare is going to go to shit. It's going to go to garbage sooner than later. It already has. Anyways.
No problem. Derek, looks like I'm going to be replaced real soon.
Yep, I agree. Well, you shouldn't be replaced. You should stay here. But I think Jenny should just be here more often. That's all. So a little easier on the eyes.
Anytime we need to talk about health stuff, because you scare us when you talk about health stuff.
I do what to the health stuff?
You scare us when you talk about it.
Yeah, it's just stuff that I've experienced. What can I say? Wow, sorry about this.
Yeah, sorry, Cheryl.
Yeah, I've been approached by a couple of people that has happened to also, and it's a very sad case because they do take these um, in with a good intent. It's just too bad the people that are making them and pushing them on people have ill intent, and there's a reasoning behind all these deaths, and it's not something that is by accident or anything like that. And I've been saying it from the very start when the first news articles kept coming out at the beginning. In a rare case, and what did I say? This stuff's not rare at all. This is happening over and over, and look, it's commonplace. It's not rare at all. There are people being injured and dying from this stuff over and over again.
You know what I've noticed though? It's certain pockets that are getting a lot of people passing away. In Toronto, I don't think the numbers are that great for some reason.
You might be right. I don't know. I don't really pay attention. I know down here in the Niagara region, I know there's a lot of friends of mine that have lost friends and have had people injured. There's people I know personally that have been injured by this stuff. So, and it's not rare. Not in the least.
Okay. Derek, we gonna do any call in answer any questions or do any call-ins or what?
We're going to give it a shot. I'm going to set it up.
Guys, if you got questions, put them in the chat now on my Facebook, I guess, or Derek's Facebook, and we'll see if we can get them. I don't know if anything's coming in through YouTube at all tonight.
Just make sure all your healthcare stuff goes to Jenny. She's the brain on this stuff, not me. I don't know anything. One person. So when Rob Primo was heading up a protest on our death doctor, Dr. Hergy, in the Niagara region, I met a lady that night. I believe there are 9 people in her family who all died from this. 9 people. So what does that tell you? That's a real sad case. So disturbing for sure.
So I don't know if my friends, like, I don't know. I've only known a few people that got sick from this. Really weird skin conditions, a little scratch, and they're in the hospital for a week. I know another guy, he kneeled on a screw. He's in the hospital for a week. His whole knee got infected. And this guy's been kneeling on screws for years and years and years. Residential, commercial, mechanical worker. Here's a question for you. We all know that people have and are being coerced into receiving the failed jab. What action can we take to counter this, and is it not considered criminal?
No, it's not considered criminal. You have to understand that if you look at the criminal requirements, so a lot of people are saying this is extortion, blah, blah, blah. That's all garbage. And again, don't be trying to push these private charges. They're not going to go anywhere. The Crown will throw them out, and you open yourself up to lawsuit. We've seen this with Norm Travesey and the other 205 people who laid charges against Trudeau, all thrown out. So it's not a good thing. You'll get nowhere. In the criminal code, when you look under these offenses, you will see it says without lawful reason commits extortion or whatever, culpable, homicide, murder, whatever. You have to understand that there was an emergency declared, and this is what they said you had to do. You had to take your jabs, all this garbage. So that is not without lawful authority. This is with lawful authority. Is it constitutional though? And we do have the JCCF, Adam Skelly, great people like that that have taken this fight on and are pushing them in the courts here to get some accountability and these unconstitutional mandates removed. So, no, it's not considered criminal because it was legally done.
Here's another horror story. The lady behind me had 2 strokes. After the second, fell down, and now she's in a wheelchair. They found her daughter-in-law, 53 years old, dead, sitting in a chair after the first. Not something you hear very often, is it?
No, so I was talking to one of our military boys, and currently active military. They had gave in to the jab eventually. They held out as long as they could, but they wanted to be in the military. They wanted all that stuff. And what they ended up doing was they ended up telling me, so he said, okay, I'll go get my one jab. But these guys went and gave it to him in both arms, and they gave him, I believe it was 2 or 3 jabs all in one shot. So there was no sitting between a time period before you get your next one. And then the one who was giving him the jab at this clinic said, oops, I made a mistake. You're going to be mad at me. And then told him that she nailed him with everything, one after the other. So, you know, that's negligence. If there's a lawsuit, if there was any injury, then that would be a lawsuit. Just remember, you can't have a lawsuit if there's no harm. So you have to suffer harm in some way for lawsuit.
Here's a good question. People have pain behind the eyes after the swab up the nose. What can be done to correct that? Is this something that goes on for days or weeks and months, or is this something that's just for a couple of days?
You know what? I would try. First of all, I'd start rinsing out that nasal cavity of yours, that sinus cavity. Go old school. Get a neti pot. Start rinsing out saline solution in your sinus cavity. Rinse it out. Get a nebulizer. Start rinsing out with distilled water and a little bit of peroxide, saline, in a nebulizer. But
You'd want that diluted, though, wouldn't you?
yeah, look it up.
Look it up.
I will provide suggestions of things that you might want to look into. I will not provide the specifics of anything else.
Yeah, Jenny, there's someone in here. I don't know if yeah, that's the question there. Are you aware of any of that?
You know what? I am. I've heard of that. I've read studies on it. A document came by. I read a lot of them that stated, even in one of the, I think it was the second or third phase, or maybe even the first, they did trial it on pregnant women. They said that they didn't, and from what I researched, over 70% miscarried in that first phase. So the significant amount of stillbirths from nurses that I've seen in chats and what they're witnessing is pretty significant. So
was it Julie Pontes who was speaking about that?
There's been a lot of women or professional, like there's been a lot of healthcare people stepping forward with that, with the concern. And then of course you've got the people that are like, oh no, it's a coincidence. It's bizarro land. There's a lot of, it's just, yeah.
Yeah, I think I heard first of that from Dr. Nagasi, if I'm not mistaken. He was talking about the stillbirths and everything else in people who were taking this poison.
I've had access to a lot of the medical aspect regarding a lot of the process over the past 2 years with Canadian frontline nurses and other groups and organizations. So I have heard from the start that it's the pregnant women and the push for it with them, but over 70% miscarried from the first couple of phases of the trial.
Well, if you think about it, here's something I've been thinking about. No one's talked about it. Just my own little, because my mind always goes no matter what. And I was thinking, how they had the 5 and up to get jabbed, and then they were conducting studies for 5 and under or under 5 to get jabbed. If you think about it, they're already doing those studies because if you're pregnant, that child's under 5, no matter what. And at what stage, who knows? But if the parent is taking this, it's going to affect the child. And with each jab that you take, your immune system is reduced. What does that do? That's a question I have to say is what does that do to a newborn? Because they're supposed to have a very good immunity from the mother when they're born. Is that immunity destroyed then?
Yeah. So babies are being diagnosed with perimyocarditis or pericarditis and myocarditis in utero. They're setting up pediatric stroke units that we've never had now at astounding measures now. That's all these pediatric units and areas of concern in medical it's how it's I'm sorry. I'm having a hard time getting the words because it's so deplorably evil and negligent what they are doing to our babies that it's hard for me. So,
Yeah, Ed, if you see that one comment there from Kirsten, and good one there. I don't know if they're being used as fake or not, but I do know I can't get my car fixed right now. So last year when I was trying to get my car fixed, I had a turbo and timing chain replaced. I had to wait 4 months. It sat there to get a little stud that had to get in there. Now I have a problem again. I need to get my car and I stopped in the garage and there are absolutely no mechanics. They're all off with COVID. And this is what this is creating is a
wow.
people don't want to work. They sit at home. They'll claim they have COVID, and that's it. They'll collect from the government. Why the hell go work? And in some cases, they're getting more money from the government than they're getting from actually going into work. So, what the hell's the reason to work? What's going to happen when universal basic income comes in? What kind of a shortage are we going to have then? This is a big problem, right?
So how is it that they've been jabbed so that they get protection against the COVID, and yet they're sitting at home because they've got the COVID, and yet they got jabbed? So pretty
This
effective,
is the
isn't it?
song that never ends. It just goes on and on. I don't know what came first, chicken or the egg. Like it's so.
Don't say it.
I know. I'm being good. I know I'm being good. I don't know. The assumption it's like the athletes. Has not anybody noticed how many athletes have started dropping? All the soccer players.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Athletes, and we're seeing it in young and older ones. And especially it's alarming that we're seeing it in the young kids.
Yeah.
Beavis there. What you're saying on that comment, so you say it was done legally, isn't that overly simplified according to the provincial orders and preambles? No, it's not overly simplified, because the second they're bringing these orders under a emergency, it makes it legal. And I'm trying to put it in a way that people will understand. If you haven't noticed, I don't like to talk in legal terms and stuff, because if I do, you're not going to know what the hell I'm talking about. And I like to keep it simplified so everybody can understand. And at the end of the day, you'll see any of these charges in the criminal code, it always says without lawful authority is guilty of whatever it is. So by them doing that, they're making it legal.
So as far as this Rogers statement goes, it seems like no one's speaking out or don't hear much on what they're spraying in the sky. Types of poison, chemtrails. Well, they're going to keep that really quiet. Second thing is, how many people can go out there and actually step out of the plane and actually catch some of this contrail crap? How do you sample it? How do you get the evidence in high enough concentrations?
Well, Ed, there's been samples taken from autopsies actually, and they've found nanoparticles from the spraying embedded in the brain. So these things are making its way through. Did you know that Canada, and Ontario in specific, is one of the highest cases in the world for autism and Alzheimer's and everything else? What's so different in Ontario than the rest of the world? And this is, you'll always see these guys. You see this Bell garbage. People were putting that frame on the Let's Talk frame on Facebook for, autism awareness or Alzheimer's and all this crap. That's it. The levels of aluminum that is in that spray not only is affecting humans, it's affecting the plants, such as trees and such. Farmers for Defense, I believe it is, made a presentation at the UN. Imagine that. It's the UN who came up with this program, and Canada and the US have been signed on in a treaty together since the 70s, either 72 or 75. I can't remember right now. But look it up. Type in Google treaty between Canada and the US and weather modification. You'll see it's all right there. Nothing is hidden from you. People, do your research.
Weather modification. It's more than weather modification. That's the cover. It's funny that question came up. I just posted something on my Instagram, I think yesterday, 2 days ago. I walked outside. My sky looked like tic-tac-toe. There was crazy lines. I live a kilometer away from Detroit. You can see their skyline from where I live. There was a line. They had clear skies, not a thing. No striation, no elongated chemtrail, no cloud, nothing. You could see my side, tic-tac-toe, big X, big X's, tic-tac-toe in the sky. Kilometer away, clear. Our area was so bad 2 days ago that it was blowing up feeds of people that I know all over with what was going on in the sky the other day. Yesterday, we had a beautiful day. I felt like garbage because those who are asthmatic, you'll find that on those kind of days with a lot of chemtrails, anybody who has any kind of respiratory issue, you're going to struggle and suffer on those days or the day after. Yeah. So, and I live close enough where I can see both skies.
Last year, a friend was 8 months pregnant due in April 2021, but her OB told her to take the jab early March 2021, and 2 weeks later was rushed to the hospital, almost died. Had the baby, who has been sick since, something to do with his white blood cells. The baby will be a year, but not well. That's pretty sad, too. Who do we lose?
You didn't lose anybody.
Where's Jenny? Oh, there she is.
Top.
Everybody's too shy. Everybody's too shy to call.
It makes me sad. It makes me sad, and it makes me angry. We have learned this how many times over the decades with pregnant women. Don't mess with them. They are creating life. This crap, it's being tested on human beings. I don't care. There was no prior animal testing for this specific one. 30 years? Yes, there has been. Never made it to human, though, because it killed all the living things it got injected into. But shh. Why? We tell pregnant women not even to take a friggin' allergy pill, but you're going to inject them with this. Oh, long term. Long term isn't a couple of weeks or months, folks. Long term side effects and issues, years, years. Think of asbestos. Think of lead paint. And they go and test it on these pregnant women. And here's the thing, we're seeing evident side effects from those that are being born with issues, these poor babies, or in utero being diagnosed, or shortly after. What's the long term for them? What's their fertility going to be like? What's their immune system? What's going to be the production of their white blood cell? How is their heart going to do? Because if they've got pericarditis out of the womb, our heart muscle and tissue never heals. Once it's scarred, that part is scarred. It's unlike other tissue where we regenerate it. That's why we protect our heart. And we're not giving these poor souls a chance even outside the womb for a second, because we're already potentially injuring one of the main sources of an organ that keeps us living. It's going to be a very sad state of affairs in a few years. And it's...
Yeah, Derek, look in the private chat. I put up a link. Just throw that up just for a quick. We're not going to go through it. It's just too long. But I just want people to pay attention. Do your searches, research on the internet. Everything's right there. There you go. Whenever you hear sustainability, sustainable development, greening, all of this stuff, United Nations Conference on Environment Development, right? So this is in 90.
Oh, that's when the first Greta came around in Rio.
Well, that's not that's the misleading. So the UN and their agenda was actually hashed out in 1946. Rio is not the actual stuff where it come up, but they're addressing homelessness and everything else. What the hell does homelessness have to do with the environment? And this is the BS we've had. Ed, I talked to you earlier. We're gonna get Tom DeWeese on here. Maybe in about 3 weeks, we'll have Tom DeWeese on, the American Policy.
I'm gonna share this to people.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff that you gotta everyone needs to check into.
Boom, there it is. There you guys, download it, read it, educate yourself.
So most of the stuff has already been implemented. I think they're just tying up the last loose ends.
Yeah, Ed, and if you go to the actual UN website, you'll see the future stuff. Not only that, but I'll encourage everybody to type in Google a Rockefeller Foundation, go to their PDF. You want to know what's coming up? Read it. That's exactly what's coming up. They started doing this garbage in the schools and everything else. They have a whole timeline of what's coming up. And they are the ones in 2010 who went and said everything at the beginning of this and how they were going to do it. And it has been exactly to a T. So if you think this isn't an agenda or something that's not planned, think again. Do your research. Get out there. Hidden in plain sight, because they think we are all too stupid. And I think we should get Glenn Meredith on. I believe it was his brother-in-law or something that had taken the jab, and he ended up passing away from it. I think we should get him on sometime and have him say his story there. It would probably be.
Guys, I know some beekeepers here right around the Toronto area, and I will be looking into this.
A few moments later.
That one didn't work this time.
1 hour later.
Stefanos, what have you said? Just as Mr. Peckford, they sidestepped the federal emergency Oaks tests, so the provincial orders are in violation of federal laws.
They are in federal laws, but this is where, again, you're going to get the complexity happening here, and this is why I'm just trying to put it in terms that everyone can understand. So they sidestepped the laws. Of course they did. They forget the laws. They've sidestepped the Constitution. They just right on infringed on it. So, Mr. Peckford, being a guy that I like and everything, and I'm glad he came on the show, but this is what happens when people are in office and they go and they vote for something or work on something, and then they add something stupid like the notwithstanding clause, because our constitutional rights are inviolable rights, so they cannot be void. So the charter, by having that notwithstanding clause, is unconstitutional in itself. Nobody's ever challenged it, because if you have inviolable rights, how can they be void? And this is the Donahue case, and I have that too, where the judges are talking about the charter being unconstitutional for that very fact that it voids your rights. Do you ever sit back and think about why the hell would the government alter something that is supposed to be the checks and balances that keeps the government from becoming tyrannical in order to void your rights? You're seeing it, the reason why now, so it can be abused. So Mr. Peckford should not be shocked in any way, shape, or form, because he absolutely knows, or should have known, that when you put clauses like that into something that's supposed to protect the people, that will open doors to abuse. And we've seen abuse on the highest levels, especially with the Freedom Convoy, especially with Bill 100, especially with everything else that's coming in now, jobs and the healthcare workers being kicked out, and not just healthcare workers, all employment, period. So, the fact is that there's an emergency declared. Even though there's no emergency, it makes it lawful. And you cannot do anything like that because it is lawful in their eyes.
Lawful.
And there is a difference between contrail and chemtrail. It's not the same thing. I agree. So contrail is short for condensation trails. I remember when I was a kid, sometimes on some days you'd see the jets flying way, way high over western Toronto. And by the time the plane crossed half of the sky, the tail end of the condensation trail would basically evaporate, turn into microcrystals, and the air up there was so dry. That's why you would see it. Some days when it was very humid up in those atmospheres, these planes are anywhere from 30 to 45,000 feet high, depending on what the humidity is, relative humidity. If it wasn't dry, you wouldn't see any condensation trail because, and it would be warmer, so it wouldn't be condensing to give you those ice crystals that you would actually see. With these chemtrails, so I never seen crisscross patterns like we're seeing these days, and that is somewhat alarming. Second thing is, commercial airliners do not fly crisscross patterns. There are actually highways in the skies where they fly from navigation point to navigation point, and they're not crisscross like a city. So it's they're definitely doing it intentionally, this spraying. So the chemical trails that hang around for hours and hours and hours and days just wasn't around 40, 50 years ago.
So, Ed, just let me go back to Beavis here again and talking about the Oaks test. Does I'm going to ask you, the audience, do you know what the Oaks test is, first and foremost, or is this just something that you are repeating because somebody has said it? Okay, and again, this is where I keep telling people to go do your research. So let me explain a little bit, and this is because I want you all to have an understanding. So in an Oaks test, so there has to be a pressing and substantial objective, one of the tests. The other test is they have to be proportional. So they have to be connected to their objective. It has to be minimal impairment of rights. And we're seeing this isn't the minimal impairment of rights, obviously. And it has to be proportionately between the infringement and the objective. So those are your four tests of your Oaks test. So what you're missing, the point you are missing is this: has a notwithstanding clause been invoked? has our constitutional rights been stripped from us? No, they have not. Nobody has implemented the notwithstanding clause in our charter. So throw the Oaks test in the garbage because it doesn't apply, because they're what you have to understand, where it was invoked is by Cheesecake Doug Ford in the Elections Act. So that everybody watching this freaking show, and show it out, you have to geez, Rose, you're putting pressure on me. 1 minute. You have to get it out there that there's no way in freaking hell we're going into a constitutional election, because Doug Ford lost that court case, and instead of appealing it, he just simply invoked a notwithstanding clause and stripped us of our constitutional rights. So right now in Ontario, at least, you're going into an unconstitutional election. You should all be emailing Elections Ontario and raising a stink about this. Put some pressure on them. Put, Governor General, put pressure on them. Tell them we're going into an unconstitutional election, period. And it was never demonstrated why they had to infringe on your rights. Let that sink in. If you're going to vote for PC, go get your head checked.
And yes, I do still have coffee on my website.
Ed, you're muted.
Thank you guys for coming on. We've run out of time. We got to play RC's new song. Any final comments, Jenny?
No, just stay safe and just try to educate your people. Keep them aware, especially the pregnant ones.
Let's build communities. And just to let you know, Monday night we got Danny DeSantis coming on. He's going to make a mayoral bid for Mayor of Toronto.
Yes.
Thursday we got Wednesday we've got Kevin's doing a big show, 3-hour show.
A few moments later.
Why'd you put that in there? Thursday we got another doctor coming on. He's going to be ripping apart the latest Pfizer drops. And that will be so bad with names. Help me out here, Derek. Who's on Thursday?
Thursday is what was the name of that guy? I forget now too. Was it
Dr.
Palmer?
Gurgis.
Oh, that's Friday. That's Friday.
And Dr. Palmer is coming on Friday, and he's going to be telling us all about the future of mRNA vaccines and how not so great they're going to be. And this is coming down the pipe.
It'll be a good show, guys. So tune in.
Yep.
And
thanks for having me, Ed. Always.
Thanks for coming.
And again, extend to Glenn our thanks for bringing him on the show. And I guess one of these days he's going to be replacing me permanently, eh?
You never know.
People
I got a nice smile.
Not yet. We won't replace you, Ed. We just add Jenny on. That's all.
He's trying to replace me right now. He's trying to sneak me out of here.
I'll just make guest appearances. Wouldn't be any fun if you weren't here, Ed. Come on.
Ooh.
I'm just a guest too.
Ed on here.
This is getting pretty serious.
I'm not feeling the love, guys. Play the song, Derek. See you guys.
All right. RC's new
Nighty
song.
night.
Tried to blame me, tried to shame me, brought the fight to my door. Now you're running scared, bet you never thought that I'd come and pull up at yours. All the things that you tried to cast away, you're now washing up on your shores. All the high water and hell I've been through prepared me for this war. I'm not afraid, I won't back down. Blaring the horns outside of your ivory tower, till the walls come down from the mighty sound, marking your final hour. Try with all of your might to defy the holiness that you tried to sour. You'll never win, your time has come. My strength comes from a higher power that shines a light on your darkness. And all the things that you tried to hide and opens up every closet. Don't gotta look far to find the light. Now the cage is open and the flames are roaming, and we walk together like a lion pride. You'll never tame us, now watch us raise up and purify with the fire inside.
No fear.
has no rival, is untouchable, infinite, limitless, indestructible. They're terrified to let us shine. When we stand together, we're ironclad in unity. There's power greater than the type these tyrants have, sending in their thugs who find us smiling back at their violent acts. Now that the dam has broken, there's no hope for them to wind it back. We're coming into our power and realizing what we really need, and it's not advice from a coward who says more restrictions will set us free. There's no weight behind it like powder. All we need is each other now. Vibration raising, their planet's failing, their house of cards is coming down. The force that courses through our veins is powerful and permanent, and flows from high in heaven, somewhere far beyond the firmament. The darkness had its day, but only paved the way to a total shift where planet Earth and humanity live in harmony without globalists.
No fear till the walls come down and we see clear.
Unshakable, unmovable, unwavering, unbreakable, like tides that breathe and rising seas, unstoppable, untamable. The light that lives within us has no rival, is untouchable, infinite, limitless, indestructible. They tried to hold us down, but the extra weight just made us stronger, kicked us to the ground. But we got up and stood up taller, tried to demonize our pride, but all they did was make us prouder. Tried to cover up our voices and only made us raise them louder. Tried to keep us from our faith, locked our churches, cuffed our preachers. Now our prayers are even louder. They created more believers, tried to block and censor us and bury us in lies, but that made us better judges. All they did was make us wise. There's nothing they can do to stop these changes that are coming. The angel choirs are singing and our ancestors are drumming. Child, smile and do not fear, for the devil cannot play a hand that isn't drawn from his creation and all a part of our Father's plan.